Welcome to Kaumudy Global. One of the most popular leisure time for families, particularly those living in cities, is dining out. And the only option for those who travel far for business will be eating out, which is by no means ideal to say. If unchecked, this common activity, which is enjoyable to some people and necessary to others, could pose grave threats to the public health and environment. The supply of food appears to have kept up with the enormous demand for it. However, monitoring has a lot to improve on. In particular, Kerala has been found failing on three fronts. First, registration and licensing. 2, sample collection and inspection. 3, food monitoring and analysis. Any food business operator FBO, such as hotels, restaurants, and catering services with an annual turnover of more than Rs 12 lakh must have a license in accordance with the Food Safety and Standards FSS Act. On other hand, small shopkeepers, street vendors, and temporary stall holders with an annual revenue of less than Rs 12 lakh will need to register with organizations like the local self-governments or the GST department. According to a top source in the Food and Safety Department, the time it takes to issue permits is enormous, taking anything from 60 to 120 days. According to the FSS Act, permits must be granted within 60 days after the application's receipt. The FBO can begin operating if this is not done without rejecting the application or notifying the applicant of certain shortfalls. The source said, the issue is that when an FBO starts operating without obtaining a license, it will not be included in the database of the Food and Safety Department, therefore remaining shielded from the department's monitoring. The Food Safety Department can readily cross-check its database with sister concerns because these FBOs will need to register simultaneously with other government agencies. However, the department hasn't bothered to do anything either. In Thiruvananthapuram, for example, state GST figures shows that 96 of the 162 restaurants with the GST registrations do not have a Food Safety and Standards Authority of India license. This indicates that a significant number of restaurants with a GST registration do not appear in the Food and Safety Department database. The Food Safety Officer who reports to the Assistant Commissioner of Food Safety of a district and is in charge of field-level duties is required by the FSS Act to keep a database of all the food establishments in the territory that has been given to him. Without a comprehensive database, the Food Safety Commissioner won't know how many FBOs there really are, making it impossible for the department to keep track of their operations, let alone check to see if these eateries and stores are aided by regulations set forth for the production, sale, and storage of food items. Even if there are a lot of operators who operate outside the scope of the Food Safety Department, only a small portion of even licensed operators are subject to inspection. According to a recent CAG audit, fewer than 30% of the FBOs with a revenue of above Rs 12 crore underwent food safety inspection. The FSS Act stipulates that license holders should be inspected at least once a year by food safety officers. It is problematic that only a small number of licensed eateries are subjected to even one inspection a year, but far worse is the follow-up. It is as if the department's job is done after issuing an improvement notice to an FBO. The enforcement is weak even when unsafe or substandard food is detected. Under the FSS rule, the FBOs will have to draw food samples for surveillance, survey, and research. The first samples, however, cannot be used for prosecution. If any of these preliminary samples are found not to adhere to FSSAI standards, more samples called the enforcement samples will have to be immediately collected from the operator so that the shop could be shut down and prosecution proceedings initiated. In most cases, these are not done, and in some others, the lifting of the enforcement sample is done very late. The net result of this failure to collect more samples urgently when a restaurant or wayside hawker is found to sell unsafe food is that the unsuspecting public will continue to consume such contaminated food. On top of all this, even if contaminated food reaches notified laboratories, the assessment of food safety is virtually a futile exercise. Government Analysis Laboratory, Thiruvananthapuram, Regional Analytical Laboratory, Ernakulam, and Regional Analytical Laboratory, Kozhikode are the three notified laboratories in Kerala. A CAG audit conducted in 2020 discovered that none of these laboratories were carrying out all the required parameters for analyzing the standards and permitted limits of pollutants, toxins, residues, antibiotics, and microbiological elements. The moral of the story is that a lab certification of a food product's safety cannot be taken as definitive. This is Anjana signing off. Do like and share this video. For further updates, subscribe to Kaumudy Global.